Okay, hello everyone, good afternoon. I'm very pleased to moderate the following presentation. Effective editorial strategies, citations for indexing and visibility. I know that it will be very enriching for each author and editor present, and for all of us. I'm pleased to announce Mrs. Ellie Cattenson. Ellie is a digital commons consultant who has been with Elsevier for 3 years. In her role as the first bilingual consultant at Digital Commons, she launched the Digital Commons sites for the first bilingual for the University of La Salle in Colombia, University Ricardo Palma in Peru, and the Archives of Neurosurgery Journal of the Mexican Society of Neurosurgery. She is proud of these clients who have combined downloads of 1.8 million of downloads in all the world and counting. And it's passionate about increasing the worldwide visibility of Spanish-speaking institutions and their research. Also, we have to Promita Chatterji as a product manager of Digital Commons Open Access Journals. Promita works closely with institutions and publishers to understand emerging trends, report on product innovation, and create visibility and impact for Diamond Open Access journals. He has led strategic initiatives on topics such as research data management, open educational resources, and the impact of open access. Promita holds a PhD from the University of California at Berkeley and spent several years teaching at the university. Thank you very much, Promita, for joining us. The room is yours.
Thank you so much, Herman. I'm so happy to be here presenting to everyone, and thank you very much for hosting us. My colleague Ellie and I work with hundreds of editors, libraries, university presses, and we have learned a lot over the years with doing these presentations. And today we're really pleased to be sharing with you some of the top insights that we've learned in terms of increasing visibility and impact for our journals. So without further ado, Ellie, if we could share the presentation, we can go ahead and get started.
Hi, Promita. My screen is shared, I believe. Can you not see it here? It's not visible?
I think you just have to do it on the slideshow.
In what sense? It looks like my screen is shared. Do you see the front page of the presentation?
Yeah, can you go to slideshow and then present from beginning?
Yes, do you see it now?
Okay, great. All right, fantastic. And if you could move to the next slide, please, Ellie. Wonderful. I want to start first with just providing a little bit of an introduction of where Ellie and I come from. We work with Digital Commons, as Herman mentioned, and Digital Commons is an Elsevier platform. Digital Commons actually recently joined the Elsevier family of research products, but the platform has been used for over 20 years by editors, libraries, journal editors, and more to support Diamond Open Access journal publishing. It was founded in 1999 by professors at the University of California, Berkeley, where Ellie and I are both alumni. So we're very pleased to be able to be working in the place that we also did all of our learning. Digital Commons has an all-in-one journal publishing platform. And by all-in-one, I mean that it has full functionality to support the full workflow, the submission and review workflow, editorial management tools, as well as hosting capabilities. We do focus on Diamond Open Access journals, so no reader or author fees. And Digital Commons also supports full institutional repository functionality. So this is functionality for things like data sets, for faculty work, for student work, for special collections and archives. Ellie, if you would move to the next one. Today, over 600 institutions use Digital Commons to support 2,000 journals. And these institutions range from big research universities to Ivy League schools to more smaller liberal arts schools as well. And we are, as Herman mentioned, and we're developing a growing presence in Latin America. Next slide, please. I want to spend a few minutes talking a little bit about our Diamond Open Access model. First of all, as many of you know, it's Open Access Week, so happy Open Access Week. We have been working on this model, as I mentioned, for over 20 years, and it's really exciting to see that in recent years, that Diamond Open Access model is really growing. And one of the reasons that it's been growing is that it's being driven by researcher advocacy. So researchers are more aware of open access in general and want their work to be available more globally. It's also being driven by funder mandates. So for example, you might be aware of some of the work that Coalition S has been doing in terms of advocating in this front. And then also we're talking to a lot of ministries, country level or university level initiatives where the need to build visibility for research that's happening around the globe is really important. So these are all different drivers of the Diamond Open Access model. So next. Thank you. And why is it growing? There's a really big reason why this Diamond Open Access model is growing. And the reason is because it really meets a need that's out there. It meets a gap, it fills a gap that exists that is not covered by the commercial publishing infrastructure. We're learning that there's thousands and thousands of journals that are being launched across the world. A lot of them they might be in niche or emerging fields. They might be regional or local language journals. They might be in the arts, humanities, or social sciences, or have more of an applied or general audience. These are journals that maybe are not always able to be supported by a commercial publisher, but they definitely still have a lot of value. And it's important to create visibility and readership and community for these journals. And we've been very honored to be able to work with them over the years. Now I'm going to hand it over to Ellie. Ellie works directly with a lot of editors, as she's going to talk to you about. And she's going to share with you a little bit of why Diamond OA, that Diamond OA model really works and is effective in creating visibility and impact for journals. So over to you, Ellie.
Great. Can you hear me okay? Hello? Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me? Let me just confirm that you can hear me. Can someone confirm that they can hear me? Hello?
We can hear you, Ellie.
Great, thank you. I'm sorry, it's hard when it's down. Great, so let's go ahead. Hola a todos, I'm so happy to be here. And I'd like to start by discussing some of the most common frustrations that I and my colleagues hear from journal editors. So as you can see on this slide, we were getting a lot of questions about how do I really improve the quality of my journal? How do we increase the visibility of the research? We want to get indexed in all these different places, but they have different requirements. So how do we meet those requirements? We want the peer review process to move more quickly. We're not sure about the impact that we're having. And we want to recruit more submissions, more authors, more reviewers, and even more editors. So because of these questions, we've actually identified, and it looks like, there we go. We've identified 5 categories to ensure the growth, quality, and success of a journal. And so the journal needs to look and be managed in a professional manner. The content needs to be easily discoverable through the open web. You need an editorial system that's easy to use and manage. It's really great if you have guidance from people who have editorial management expertise. And then it's nice when you have a scalable model where the journal can really grow sustainably. So the first one we're going to look at here is, what does a journal really need to be professional? So, you know, the editorial team, it frequently just doesn't have a lot of time or energy to build a journal website from scratch. And so having technical support like their consultants at Digital Commons and our technical team who are able to keep the site online, who are able to assist with web design, it's really very helpful. And it allows those editors to focus on the publishing process, which is, you know, the key part. And so what you're seeing here on this slide is a reliable web page. It displays the journal's editorial, you know, their main editors are here. The full editorial board is listed here, contains information that's pretty key, like the history of the journal, the aims and scope, the publication ethics, author guidelines, you know, the policies of the journal. You can see who some of the funders are here. It's really important to make sure that they feel acknowledged. And then as a journal, you need to be able to publish content that is through the peer review process. It needs to be published quickly. And then it's also really important that your readers can rely on your journal for regular publication on a certain schedule, you know, that you determine. So here on this slide, we have proof that, you know, professional journals, they need to have good design. And so that doesn't mean that a journal design has to be really fancy, but it does mean that your journal should have a design that gives it an identity and a personality, as well as, you know, it should give the editorial team a sense of pride. And so, you know, this breaking boundaries example, it's very cutting edge type of concept for a journal. So their design is very cutting edge. And then this Journal of Gender and Water, they wanted to have a little bit more traditional design, and we are able to accommodate different visions that you have. And so, you know, as Herman said in his introduction, we have consultants who are bilingual. We support you in Spanish. The front end of the journal is in Spanish. This example, Breaking Boundaries, it's a little hard to see, but it's translated into 4 languages if you actually go to the journal itself. So that's really lovely. It's hosted on the cloud, which means that the journal's always in a stable location. The web page is always stable, and that complies with the Scopus technical requirement that the page is always easy to locate and in the same location, right? So the second factor for a successful journal is visibility. So let's go ahead and talk about what that means. So, you know, discoverability is essential for a journal, but it's pretty challenging for editorial teams to learn how to increase discoverability, to optimize their content, to be found by search engines more easily, to increase your page rankings. You know, that's a specialty, an area of specialty that a lot of people, it takes a long time to learn. And so, but that type of visibility, you know, your research needs to be accessible in search engines for index applications to see that you are having a global impact, and for your journal to really become the best quality journal that it can be. And so here, you know, we're seeing that when you have more readers, you receive more submissions, the peer review process will be more quick, and then you know, your journal is better quality. This is the virtuous cycle of success. When your journal is more visible, you are inherently improving the quality of your journal, and then, you know, all of your goals can kind of be met. So let's go ahead and move to the next slide here. So 80% of Digital Commons readers, they are coming to our content from a search engine that they looked up, you know, let's say immigration or something like that. They were able to locate locate research by searching it. So this image here, where my mouse is showing you, that is a cover page that we attach to all of our articles. And it is really a stamp of credibility to the user. And it shows them, this is where it comes from, this is the university. It has live links. So on the cover page, you can click to it. It takes you to the journal. And so if you have good quality metadata, and if you are employing best practices for SEO, search engine optimization, if you're employing both of those elements, your rankings in search engines are going to grow, and your content will only become more discoverable with time. So, you know, this piece, it grew in search engines, and that's what we like to see. So one other thing I'd like to note is that Promita has a monthly meeting with one of our contacts at Google Scholar, and she's able to keep on top of new developments that she learns about from them, and that's special. And that's kind of part of why our origins as Berkeley, you know, you have a unique academic environment that we like. So let's move on. So, okay, I've talked a lot about why visibility improves the quality of your journal, and you know, a way that you're able to gauge how visible your journal is through these, you know, tools for insights. So with Digital Commons, we have what's called the dashboard, and editors are able to look at the metrics of their research. And so here you're seeing, in the early days of this repository, it was having low downloads, not low, but it was having smaller downloads than it has now, 10 years later. And so that's a really steep increase. That's what we like to see. They're able to see their growth over time and to gain an understanding. And then on this next slide, this is what we call a readership distribution map. And this shows the number of downloads and the amount of readers that you're seeing over time, but also over location. And so, you know, editors are able to develop strategies based on, oh, we have a lot of readers here. We don't have a lot of readers over here. How do we want to adjust what we're doing or target these different demographics that we have? So I'm going to move on. There's some additional tools that I'd like to discuss now. And these are tools that editors are also using for the strategies that I just mentioned. So this left-hand image, this is a readership map. It appears on the front end of all Digital Commons sites. So it's visible to any site user that comes to the site. And it really legitimizes the international impact that the research is having. You can see in real time, you know, the amount of downloads the site has, how many in the past year, how much content they have, where it's coming from. And so that's nice because now the user is seeing like, oh, wow. And it's a big way to motivate authors and reviewers who are kind of like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then here, this is the dashboard again. You're seeing, this is only visible to editors and authors. And so the dashboard has a lot of different reporting features, but it also has PlumX dashboard functionality. So you're able to look at citation count, social media, and other usage statistics. This last tool that I want to mention, and let me take a quick sip of my tea, excuse me. So the Readership Report is a monthly email that is sent to authors in Digital Commons. And so each month, the author receives an email with the number of downloads that their work received and with a view of their dashboard so they can see where readers are coming from. And when I was a student at Berkeley, I published a conference paper and I started getting these emails that would tell me the downloads. And I was like, hey, this is really great. You know, I was surprised I hadn't signed up for it, and I put it on my CV. And then I got my first research position as an undergraduate student in the nuclear engineering department. And so it really engages early stage academics and other people who are publishing. They're just able to promote and increase the visibility of the site and the journal, which is what you want to see. So, okay. Let me go to the next slide here. There we go. Great. So here I have a case study of how visibility really helped a journal, the Journal of International Women's Studies. And so this was a journal where they really believe in open access, and a lot of journals on Digital Commons believe in open access. 97% of our journals are OA. Only 3% are under subscription control. But by being open access, this journal looked at their dashboard and they saw, okay, we have a real gap in Latin America. We're not seeing the amount of readers that we want to see. And so what they did was they launched a bilingual special issue, and then they actively started recruiting authors and reviewers from Latin America. And that paid off in a big way. So they've been indexed in Scopus since 2009, and then their site score has improved on a continuous basis. So that's kind of exactly what you want to see. And yeah, let's look at this third factor for a successful journal. So this is, what does an easy to use journal and workflow look like? So, a lot of journals, you're receiving a large number of submissions, but because of the system that you're using, the editorial turnaround time can be quite slow. And that's frustrating to authors, and it's frustrating to editors who want to publish more quickly. So with this example, the Australian Journal of Teacher Education, they had a homegrown site, and so they built it from scratch, and they were receiving a lot of submissions, too many. And so they said, okay, we need to move to Digital Commons so we can manage everything within this one space, this one system. And so, they were better able to manage the number of submissions. They processed them more quickly by having a workflow that was obvious, where each step was clear and email notifications were automatic. The outcomes were really big. So in this right-hand column here, publication rose from 2 issues to 10 per year, really big improvement. Their citation rate doubled, and the downloads per paper grew from 3.4 to 422. And I'm going to keep talking about this curve throughout the presentation, but these are the type of curves that you want to see in the growth of your journal. It should always start being really steep as time goes on. So I'm really, really excited about that number. So, okay. Digital Commons is really flexible, and that's because you're able to customize your workflows, the journal settings, and the system sends these automatic email notifications based on the actions of, the author, the editor, or the reviewer. And you can keep track of everything in one place. You can know the history of the submissions and the status of everything. In this left-hand image, this is the submission form for a journal from one of my clients. And you're able to customize it, add it in English and Spanish, sweet design as well. And then here, this is an example in the back end of the site that's only visible to administrators. This is the page when you request a review from a reviewer. You can customize the email. You can change the due date. I want it due this date, or I want it due 3 weeks from when they say yes. You can add attachments. So really flexible and nice. So the next factor I'd like to get into is what I mean by expert guidance. So let's start by looking at this example from the International Journal of Religious Tourism and Pilgrimage. So this is a journal from TU Dublin in Ireland, and the editor-in-chief of this journal, his name is Kevin Griffin. And when he started the journal, he was new to journal management or anything editorial. And so he went to his library. He was able to get the journal included in their digital commons site. And he worked really closely with his consultant to get trained in how to manage the editorial workflow in digital commons. And again, really great outcomes, indexed within 3 years, good readership numbers, and starting 2 new journals right at the intersection of anthropology and tourism. And so this is where you have a journal that it's professional, it's visibility, you know, it was easy to manage in the system. And then the fact that he was supported by people who had, you know, expertise in journal management, it really brought it to success. So coming to this next slide, let me explain a little bit about how the consulting services system works at Digital Commons. So every client is paired with a consultant, and we have consultants that support in Spanish like me, and you're paired with your client from the very beginning. You start together, you go through the whole process together, and you continue working with them after their journal is launched. And so, you know, we work with training our clients. We strategize with them, we're advising on different ideas, we're project managing, we're sharing examples and best practices. And if you had any questions or you want to discuss something, we're available by phone and by email Monday through Friday. So these are, you know, some of the people on our team, the design team here, Jonathan, another Ellie, she's the head of our department, and then Nancy, and then me, hello. So cool. These relationships are very close working relationships because you work together for, you know, often for years, and both sides are really invested in the success and the everyday management of the journal. So, okay. So an example of something that consultants would assist with is, you know, the customization of journal web pages and complying with indexing requirements. And so I know in Latin America with my clients, there's a ton of regional indexes, different type of indexing requirements. We use OAI mapping of Dublin core elements to make sure that we comply with, you know, the requirements for indexes that they're applying to, or that we make sure that we comply with the indexes that they're already a part of. So some of the examples here, Web of Science, for example, PubMed, those require more advanced criteria, right? And so for journals that are looking for a little bit of extra assistance with that type of thing, we have different tiers of publishing service available. So I'll just quickly say that every journal on Digital Commons is receiving these 5, you know, categories of assistance and offering. And then we have 2 other tiers. So there's the professional tier and the premier tier. And so just for a client that is looking for, you know, just a little bit extra in certain areas. So if you have any questions about that. But let's go ahead and look at the last factor for success. And that is how a journal or a publishing program can be easy to grow, how to make it really easy to grow. So, you know, whether you're doing this on your own, whether you're using a hosted model like Digital Commons, what we have available is a really strong development group that is comprised of our software team that deals with a lot of technical matters. We have our project managers, product managers, someone like Promita, right, who is researching new features, is staying on top of what's current in the field. We're automatically releasing those features for you. We're hosting the site in the cloud and taking care of the technical stuff so that you don't really have to worry about it. You know that it's good to go. Your consultant is able to customize metadata on your behalf, under your direction, able to strategize with you and set up workflows that you like. And then, you know, just quickly, there's no limit on file size or storage or journal size, or you know, you have terabytes, you know, go for it. But yeah, so I want to just close out this last part of the presentation with a few case studies of my own clients. So Universidad Ricardo Palma and Archives of Neurosurgery. As Germán said at the start of the presentation, these were two medical journals. They went with Digital Commons because they wanted to publish more quickly, and they wanted to be more visible internationally. And so starting with Archives of Neurosurgery here, they are a DC premier journal. They're published by the Mexican Society of Neurological Surgery based in Ciudad de Mexico. And, it's a society journal. The society that publishes, it's full of neurosurgeons. So they're actually working full time. Sometimes I'll email, when we emailed them, it was like, we just got back from surgery. You're like, whoa. So they have one person who can kind of handle the day-to-day. And so they chose Premier because they wanted to make sure that their journal was, the best possible quality it could be, meeting all these different indexing and quality control type of elements, but without having, requiring as much time and energy of them. And then this example from Universidad Ricardo Palma, this is their journal from their medical faculty. They just completed a migration from OJS to Digital Commons that I assisted with. I lead them through the process and we go through it together. And now that they're done with that migration, they've been publishing a ton of articles related to COVID-19. That's a hot topic, so they're getting really good downloads. And the point of this slide is to show you that Archives of Neurosurgery, that's someone at the start of their Digital Commons journey. They're about to publish their first issue this fall. And then Universidad Ricardo Palma, now that the migration is complete, they're starting to really see the growth and the global impact that their research is having. And, okay, now we can really work towards Scopus indexation and get close to our goals. And then here on my last slide, we have ediciones Unisaye, as the Colombians say, and Unisaye, as the rest of us say. So they started with 5 journals. They now have 7. We actually completed a migration from OJS to Digital Commons 2 years ago. In the last 2 years, they've uploaded almost 3,000 articles. They have reached, 425,000 downloads and counting. In the last 3 months, they've had over 130,000 unique readers. And so if you imagine, they have 425,000 downloads in total, but 130,000 of those are in the last 3 months. And that means that their growth curve is really increasing. And that's what we want to see, is that, over time, it should be getting steeper and steeper. Their readers come from, over 4,000 organizations. In Mexico, we have UNAM, we have ITESM, we have ITN, and then outside of Mexico, we have, examples like Oxford and Harvard and the United Nations and the World Health Organization. And that's information that we garner all of that from their dashboard. So I visited them in Bogota last year. We did a few days of in-person workshops and trainings for their editorial team. And we have a really close working relationship because I've been with them the whole time. And I check their downloads every day. I check all of my journals. That's kind of how I start the day. I log in and I look at the readership map because it's exciting and it allows me to keep track of what's going on, even though, they're still the boss, but I'm the advisor in some ways, right? So I just, I want to say that I'm proud of their success. I'm proud of their passion for increasing the visibility of their research and for their passion for making research in Spanish accessible on a global scale. And so, this is the type of thing that we'd like to see for every journal. And this is possible for every journal if you have a professional journal, if it's visible, if the system is easy to use and manage, if you're having guidance from someone who has journal management expertise, and and if it's, easy to grow. So that's it. Let me just say gracias a todos por su atención, and I think we're ready for questions. So I'll go ahead and maybe leave this up for a moment, so you have our emails and can write them down. But go ahead.
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you so much to Promita. Thank you, Ellie. The tips you have just shared with us are very encouraging. We will give a few minutes for a little space for the attendees to ask us the questions that rise, either on YouTube broadcasting or in the Condorcet League. Here we have the first question, Ellie. Do you have any customers who have migrated from OGS?
Yes. So both Universidad de La Salle and Universidad Ricardo Palma both completed migrations from OJS. We have a bulk ingestion tool called Batch Upload, and by using a spreadsheet that contains these categories of different metadata, we work with the editors so that they know how to enter the articles in the spreadsheet. We make sure that the text has a URL that is accessible, and then when they submit the spreadsheet, it pulls it all into the system, and the issues are just there. And we work closely to make sure that the DOIs, the ISSNs, that the technical information is clear, that the citations look like they need to. We customize as the customer requests. And yeah, OJS is just a frequent, we're very comfortable with it because we've migrated from there a lot.
Okay, thank you. Here we have the second question. What reports each author receives monthly on this platform?
Sure. Promita, is it okay if I answer that one? Okay.
Yeah.
So each month, the author receives what's called a Readership Report. And so it's an email generated by the system. It contains the number of downloads that their work received in the last 30 days. And it contains a link to the dashboard for their article. So they can see the number of downloads over time. And they can also see based on location where those downloads are coming from. So for example, if you're a researcher who published an article in a journal about climate change, and you notice that you're getting a lot of downloads in Germany and Belgium and the Netherlands, maybe you would apply to do a postdoctorate position, or you could pitch your research to an organization there because you're able to see the institutions that are looking at your work. So if you work with your authors, you can really show them how to be strategic with that information, because these metrics are actually very valuable if you know how to analyze them.
Great. Thank you, Ellie. We have the other question. What kind of metadata can I have on digital commons journals?
Sure. So we have a standardized list of metadata that we recommend. It's selected for search engine optimization and discoverability. Something like keywords is really important, abstracts, obviously, etc. But you're able to add or remove any metadata that you want, and you can do that at any time. You kind of just say to your consultant, I want to add a field that asks them if they have any funders, let's say, or something like that. It's super easy to do. It's something we do a lot. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. The next question. What types of SEO strategy are the must know to increase downloads of my journal?
Sure. So this relates to the previous question. Having high quality metadata is one of the best ways to ensure that your article is discoverable. So for example, Let's say you published a paper about the history of art in Paris. Okay, and so you want to make sure that you have keywords: art, Paris, Renaissance, and in the abstract, you would hope that a lot of the keywords are pulled from the abstract. So the search engine is seeing, oh, these words are repeated, so they're taking note of it in the algorithm, and it gives the system something to hold on to. So the more metadata, the better. It should obviously all be true. You're not making anything up to get better exposure, but including as much information as you can. And then linking as much as possible to your work from multiple locations. So Digital Commons kind of does this inherently because the journal, the way that we build the URLs, it all comes back to the journal. So the journal grows in the page, it rises in the page rankings because it keeps, it's being referenced all the time with every article. So recommending to authors that they link to their work, and using social media and asking your university to link to it and asking faculty and professors to link to it. That also indicates to a search engine that the work is legitimate and that it should be displayed more towards the top of the page.
Okay, thank you, Ellie. I want to send a special regards, special hello for the Technical Institute of Toluca. We have many attendees from this institution in YouTube broadcasting. I remember all the attendees that they can send please your questions to the chat on YouTube, or they can receive link. I'm going to make the next question. I think it's more a question for Promita. The next question is, what can I do to get my journal ready for Scopus?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we definitely hear it all the time. So first of all, with Scopus, typically for a journal to be evaluated in Scopus, they need to have at least a 2-year publishing history. So having that sort of 2 years of regularly publishing is something that's very important. And regularity is actually very important. So if a journal is publishing once a month, they've stated that they publish once a month, it's important to stick to that once a month schedule. If they publish every quarter, then sticking to the quarterly schedule is also, but just sticking to whatever is declared on the site. As Ellie mentioned during her presentation, one thing that's really important is having a well-organized and easy to scan website. So having credentials of the editor, having easily visible policy pages, ethics pages, statements about peer review, having those all easily available and easy to find is really important. So those are some of the basic parts of Scopus indexing criteria. But then there are more advanced elements to Scopus indexing, which have to do with the journal quality. So Scopus does, if you met all of the basic criteria, Scopus, the advisory board, does also look to see whether your journal is being cited by other journals that are already in Scopus. They look to see the standing of the editors in their field, how well they're doing in their field, and they look to see at general article quality. So there's some quality markers as well. But if you're a new journal, or if you've been publishing for a year or two, some of the things that you can do to get ready for Scopus are really quite simple. It's making sure that your journal is well organized, keeping that regularity, making sure that you're signed up with ISSN and starting to do things like getting DOIs for each of your articles are all things that you can do that are fairly simple and that will get you ready for indexing.
Thank you, Promita. The next question that we have, from your point of view, how much does web design influence visibility?
I can take that. I can get started, and then Ellie, if you have some specific examples that might help. I think this kind of relates back to the previous answer that I gave around Scopus. So, one thing that we find is that having a easy to scan template really does help build downloads and helps build credibility for that journal. So that's why a lot of the things that we do that are built in, that are baked into the Digital Commons templates are designed to create momentum around that. So this might include like the templates for the journals, where we have standard links to things like journal policy pages, aims and scope, publishing ethics. But we also do things that Ellie showed during her demonstration, for example, for the PDF cover pages, because so many readers are coming to to journal content from searches on the open web. It's important to have something designed there as well. So that's not exactly web design, but it's part of sort of the bigger design formulation. So those are the two elements that I would chime in from my end. And Ellie, I don't know if you have any specific examples that you'd like to add.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes, from your point of view, what do you think?
I would say that as far as visibility, it's really the elements of the page are more important. So metadata is really important. The sidebar links are really important. Having a section that describes your journal accurately and fully that's important for visibility. It helps the search engine index you in their system correctly. But I think as far as visibility to, if we kind of redefine visibility as how does it appear to the researcher and to someone who might submit or to a reviewer, I just think it means that it's good that the design matches the personality of the journal. And it really proves that the journal is a legitimate journal. We've seen this rise of predatory journals. That's concerning. But because your consultant is frequently looking at the site, if there was anything where like, oh, that alignment is a little weird or anything, we're able to really assist so that it looks exactly as it should. And I think at this, as we go to launch a site at the start of the process, your consultant leads you through that. We go through the design process with the design team. And I think that makes it really accessible for people. So I'm very passionate just about it being a design that you are happy with, that you like, and really more importantly, that has the elements that the journal needs based on the goals that you have.
Okay, thank you. The next question. How long can a migration from OJS last? And what equipment do we need from the university?
Sure. Great. This is a good question. So the OJS with migration for Universidad, I think it took less than 2 weeks. We were really fast, really involved. They were really active. I've seen certain migrations, not with Universidad Ricardo Palma, but with some institutions it can take, if their team is not organized, they're not communicating as fast, let's say, or, we'll have to call next week. You can show us later. It could take maybe a few months, but if you're involved, it can take no time because the spreadsheet is set up. And the cool thing is that it actually doesn't require any equipment from the university. What we do is OJS already has an open access URL, and we just, I don't want to get too technical, but we remove one element, one phrase from the URL, and then we put it in the spreadsheet and it downloads immediately into the digital commons system. So you don't need to ask your university to put it on the server. And that's really nice, and that's what makes it go faster, right? You don't need to find the IT team and get it really messy. It's straightforward.
Cool, really nice. Thank you, Ellie. Next question, how many journals can be managed with digital commons? I think, or I believe that this question comes from one single institution, maybe?
Okay, I can, why don't I take that one? We definitely have different models for supporting digital commons journals. If it's often when it's an institution, I think, as you mentioned, Herman, we work with the institution as a whole. And if that institution gets a license, there's different models that we can work on. But typically, if it's an institution-wide license, it's unlimited. So we have institutions that have over 40 journals that they're hosting with us, and then we have institutions that have a lot less as well. But the model is we call it all you can eat. So when you sign up, if you have that many journals, we'll work to support them.
Great, thank you, Promita. The next question: do you recommend having a DOI with every article, issue, author, and journal?
I can answer that one too. It kind of, I would say it depends on the stage of the journal. If this is a very brand new journal, I don't think it's necessary right away. I think you can go back and add DOIs later on. I think sometimes it's worthwhile to just get started, instead of spending all of the energy on technical things like DOIs, spend that energy on making really good quality choices for your journal and making, building your networks, building your contacts, trying to get more submissions. That's where your energy should be in the beginning stages of the journal. Then after a year or so, it's easy to go back and add DOIs to articles and to build it up. If your goal is eventually to be indexed in more selective indexes like Scopus or Web of Science, then yes. And I believe that a lot of the indexes in Latin America, for example, do require DOIs as well. So you want to look to see what your goals are and where you want to be registered, and then start aligning yourself that way. But for the first year, at least, I would say put your energy into really building quality submissions and recruiting a large number of submissions for your journal.
Hey, thank you so much, Ellie and Promita. We don't have more questions. Thank you so much for everybody to join us. I would like to close. If you can help us with a brief reflection, each of you, a brief reflection or recommendation from your sides, from your thoughts, for the journals in Latin America. What do you recommend to be more visible?
Yes. I would say that you don't need to have your articles necessarily translated entirely into another language, but having at least one of your metadata fields be in another language, I think that is really helpful, so that if someone was searching, CRISPR gene technology, and you had an article, tecnología de whatever, they would still be able to find you if you had that alternate title field, for example. So, the language, unfortunately, is still, predominantly Spanish, or it's predominantly English in the search engine world. But I think being able to still share the research in Spanish, because people can use a translator or whatever to read it, right? So that's what I would say. And sharing on social media, linking to it a lot, and yeah, citing it as well, obviously.
That's great. I'm going to jump on the similar bandwagon. I will say that making sure that the front page of your journal has a lot of that information that people like to see. So things like policy pages, publication ethics, the full names and institutions of your editors, making sure that those are all clearly visible. As well as much, I would say, introductory text and our metadata fields as possible. So if, for example, you have an article, if your authors are being funded by a particular funder, to include that kind of information in your metadata, these kinds of things really help drive more visibility.
Okay, thank you, Promita. Thank you, Ellie. Again, I am very glad to present yourself, to know a little bit more about digital commons. I appreciate all the time for the attendees, and I recommend following the webinars of the whole week on the Conreceipt page. Thank you very much, and have a nice day, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.